Welcome to the Healing Light Wellness Podcast. I'm Charlene Smart, a holistic healer specializing in emotional freedom technique and energy healing. My purpose in this world is to bring healing and peace into the lives of women just like you. This show is meant to be a journey of self-discovery, healing, and growth while introducing you to new techniques and strategies to help you live a more peaceful and happy life. Hello and welcome, my dear. I'm so glad to have you here. So I'm wondering if you have ever had a moment when things were a bit of a struggle in your life, and then you had somebody say, and maybe that somebody is me, you had somebody say, look at the bright side, or just find the positive. And have you ever thought, oh, you are crazy. Right now, the only thing I can see and the only thing I can concentrate on is this thing in front of me, and there's nothing positive about it. Now, there may not be anything positive that you can see in those moments. And what makes it possible is something called the negative bias. Now, this is a gift that you and I have received from our ancestors that first walked on this earth. You and I are here because we are the cream of the crop. Our ancestors weren't the ones who thought, oh, hey, let me smell that beautiful flower and miss the tiger who's going to eat us. Oh no, our ancestors were the ones who were always on guard, ready for anything, ready to take out that tiger in the grass. Now, this gift that they had to be paying attention, they shared with us. Yay! Isn't that awesome? Now, you and I don't have to worry about being eaten by the tiger because honestly, they're at the zoo if you really want to see them. But we have been gifted this negative bias. I want to just make sure we understand what negative bias is. It is a cognitive bias that causes us to put more significance on the negative than the positive, which means that when you're standing in the middle of a struggle, trying to find the positive, which of course is there, is not going to be something that we can do easily. And it is certainly not something that's going to happen naturally because we will naturally look for the negative. So let's talk about a couple of examples of a negative bias. It's that moment when you come home and you're recapping your day. Now, there's been 5 things that went well or that maybe were good, and one thing that was not. So let's say we had a phone call with a client who was unhappy. When we recap our day, it is not going to be those 5 positive things that we focus on and share. It is most likely going to be that phone call from the client. Why? Because negative bias causes us to put more significance on the negative. Or how about those moments when a doctor shares with us what's going on? For instance, and I'm just going to use a friend of mine and she'll know who she is, but she has had a couple of surgeries and it is causing her to be non-weight bearing for quite a while. Now, the idea is if she can stay off of the leg, then she'll be able to hopefully walk without any issues. Never once has the doctor said that there's not going to be a possibility that she will not walk. But what happened is she heard non-weight bearing and that she may have some issues with tightness and stiffness in the leg. And immediately her brain went to worst case scenario. So she truly thought she would never be able to walk again. Now, what would we call this? The negative bias. Now, take our trauma that we have felt in our life, for example. Negative bias plays here too. When we look back on our life, it's usually very easy to see the places where we struggled, had trauma, and it's very easy to focus on that. Now, that is not to say that is the only thing that our lives have been, is trauma. There have been positive things, but the brain does not focus on those. It becomes insignificant. Please understand, I am not saying that the positive things in our life are insignificant. Just when it comes to the brain, and when we think about our past, it's much easier to grab on to the negative, to the trauma. But those positive things and the good things that have happened in our life are actually very powerful, and we're going to get to how we will use them. So let's talk about the drawbacks of a negative bias. Now, it may or may not be clear to you, so if it's clear, just hang on with me because we're getting to the good stuff. But the drawbacks of a negative bias mean it's very easy to dwell on negative and traumatic moments or events in our life. Even when you think you are not focusing on the negative, the subconscious is back there doing its thing, and we have no control over it. It is not the good times in life that it's pulling on, reliving. Oh no, my friend, it's these hard, painful moments in our life. Also, it makes it very easy to focus on and think about insults, negative comments. And what happens is the mind goes over and over these comments, and it increases the intensity of our stress and our anxiety, and even our fear. Let's talk about fear. We are hardwired with this negative bias, but it's not just about the things in the past or the things here in the present. It can, and usually does, also include the future. So what does this mean? Let's say you have to give a toast and you're ready for it. You know what you want to say, but the mind is going to look for the negative. So it is going to bring to you all of the things that could go wrong. Maybe you're going to stumble. You'll look like a fool. You'll forget your toast. People will laugh at you. It's playing on the things that have happened in our past. Remember those negative comments and insults? It's going to use those to increase our fear. Now, this negative bias can increase itself in intensity so that a person cannot see anything beyond the negative, which means that even positive moments and thoughts actually turn negative. This gift doesn't quite seem like a gift to us, does it? But we don't have to let the negative bias control us. All right, so here comes the goodies. Here comes the positive. If you're ready not to let the negative bias control you, here's how you can help yourself. One is awareness. Knowing that it's there is the best first step. Because when we don't know that something is happening, it just continues to perpetuate itself, right? But right now in this moment, you know. You are aware and understand what the negative bias is. So awareness, check. Good job. Now it's acknowledging it. So we understand what it is, step one. Now we have to acknowledge that it's happening in us. This might be a little more difficult, or maybe not. What I'm saying is that sometimes we have a tendency to read or hear something and assume that this is happening with everybody else, but it doesn't happen with me. Because let's admit it, it's a little scary to admit that this is going on in our brain. So right now, together, let's acknowledge that this is happening in both of us. Is that okay? All right. All we have to do is say in our brain or out loud, I acknowledge that I have a negative bias. It is not my fault. I am hardwired this way. Good. All right. So now we're aware of it. We're acknowledging that it's happening in us. What else can we do? Well, we can stop the negative self-talk. If I were to ask you to go back through all the things that you say to yourself and tell me if the majority of them are positive or the majority negative, I'm going to go with most of us would say they were negative. This is a very good next step. And this is a good step for many different reasons in your life. We have to start controlling that negative self-talk because 1, it drags our vibration down. 2, it tells us that we're not good enough. And 3, it perpetuates this negative bias. It's way too easy to look at ourselves and only see the negative. So right now, in this moment, let's agree to try to stop. I'm not asking you to stop 100%, but let's just agree that we're going to try. Can we do that? And if we were standing next to each other, I'd say, let's pinky promise. Great. Now, what about when we're in a situation and our brain wants to take us down that negative path? You have the power and the ability to reframe what is going on. That doesn't mean we're just going to blow sunshine and roses at a horrible situation, but it means we're going to stop, acknowledge, and be aware of where our mind is. Have we gone negative? Yes? Okay. How can I reframe what is going on? For instance, let's take the recap of your day. We have 5 positive things, right? We talked about it in the beginning. 1 negative thing. As we're hashing out or recapping our day and we're saying to another person, oh, I had this phone call today and it was horrible. He said blah, 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 right? In that moment, you're going to finish your thought. Finish, it is what happened. Finish the story. But then I want you to follow it up with the positives. So we're reframing saying, yeah, this was a bad moment, not a bad day. And here are the other things that made it not a bad day. Okay, so we reframe. Now we also have the ability to choose to look for and find the positive. So in a situation that may not just be having a bad day, but a situation where we're standing in a really bad place, we have the power to choose. We can choose to look for and find the positive because we know, right? We've already acknowledged, we're already aware of this negative bias because we know we have this and we are hardwired this way. We can choose to stop and really look for the positive. Now, the positive may not be, confetti falling from the ceiling and it's the best thing possible, but focusing on anything that isn't negative will help you to get out from this negative bias and deal the best way possible with what's in front of you. Now, here's something you may have heard me say before, but we can start a practice of gratitude, which means that why wait for those moments when the negative bias has kicked in? And usually by the time we realize it, we're pretty far into the fact that the negative has taken over. We can begin a practice where every day we look for something, a couple of somethings that are positive, things that we can be grateful for. Gratitude vibrates at the same frequency as love. Just by being thankful and grateful, you are feeling the frequency of love. Now, this helps in a huge way get you out away from that negative bias. Now, why is that? It can help you get out of it because you're changing your vibration. You're changing your focus to something positive on a daily basis. Starting a practice of gratitude will change many different areas in your life, including the negative bias. Now, are you sitting there thinking, oh, I can do this. This is great. Yes, sure. Thanks so much. I've got this. I'm going to celebrate with you. Woo! But I'm going to tell you right now, this isn't going to be easy. And I'm not saying this to discourage you because I want you to go out and make these changes because I don't want you to be controlled by the negative bias of your mind. But if we do not realize that this is going to take work and commitment, then I'm setting you up for failure. We are hardwired for the negative bias, which means it is going to take time and work. to get yourself out of that and maintain a more positive bias. That being said, I have found myself right where you are, and I'm going to be again. Does that sound crazy to you? Right now, I am not in my negative bias. Right now, I wake up every morning, I think about my gratitude, and all through my day, I am choosing to look beyond the negative and find the positive, even when things are difficult. But my friend, that is not going to last. I'm going to tell you why. It is not going to last because I will become complacent. I'm human, just like you. I'm going to become complacent and not spend so much time consciously thinking about gratitude and looking at the positive. And I am going to start falling back in to that negative bias. But guess what? Here is the best thing you're going to hear, and I hope you take it with you. When I realize that I have lost my footing and I am now in the whole negative mindset, I can and will acknowledge, I will be aware, and I will start to put into practice all of the things that we've talked about today. I will choose to find the positive. I will choose to reframe the situations I'm in so it doesn't have a negative spin. I will stop my negative self-talk, and I will get back to practicing gratitude. Now, I'm not saying this to tell you I'm setting myself up, but I'm telling you this because over the years, I have found myself time and time again back at the starting line. But the great thing is we can restart. Just because we get complacent and we lose our footing does not mean we give up and, oh well, here's where I am. I'll just let the negative take over until that's all I can see. I know I can begin again, and I know you have the same power. I hope today has been enlightening and has given you several ideas of how to help yourself break free from the negative bias. If you need a little boost or you want some help, you can always work with me. I do one-on-one sessions. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram if you just like a daily pick-me-up. And you can always reach out to me via email. I'm here for you. If there is ever a topic that I can help you explore, please reach out to me. I'd like to know that too. Thank you again for spending time with me today. It truly has been my pleasure. And until we meet again, may your days be filled with love and light. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love Facebook and Instagram and can be found at Healing Light Wellness Online, or you can always email me at charlene@healinglightwellness.com. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with love and light.